Live, all right. Good evening. We'll call this meeting to order. I will turn it over to Councilmember Emerson.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Tonight, I'm honored to present Pastor David Deck to give our invocation. David is the pastor at Crossroads Wesleyan Church, and he's lived in the city for 18 years and has 3 grown daughters. 2 of them are married, and the other is unmarried and lives in Branson. His church just moved into a newly built facility at 41st in California, and I've heard great things about it. Now, if you want to go to the church, right now California is closed just west of his church. So come in from Lake Shawnee, go west on 41st from Lake Shawnee, and you won't be disappointed. So, Pastor Deck, take it away, please.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. Let's pray this evening. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come to you as this meeting begins. I pray that you would give wisdom, discernment, patience, and guidance to all those who are in attendance. Please help these men and women make decisions tonight that would help the city of Topeka, Kansas be a better place to do business and a wonderful place to raise our families. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Councilman Google Maps.
If the clerk would call roll.
Okay, we have Mayor Padilla, absent. Councilmember, or Deputy Mayor Duncan.
Here.
Councilmembers Hiller,
Here.
Valdivia Aquila,
Here.
Ortiz,
Here.
Emerson,
Here.
Kell,
Here.
Nager,
Here.
Dobler,
Here.
and Lesser.
Here.
We have 9 present.
Thank you. We have 1 board appointment this morning. If the clerk would read.
A is an advisory council appointment of Anthony Fidel to the City of Topeka Americans with Disabilities Act ADA Advisory Council for a term ending July 31, 2024.
Move approval.
We have a motion. We have a second. Councilmember Kell, seconds.
All right, we have Councilmembers Ortiz,
Yeah, and Ortiz, yes. I saw her. I was looking at her waving there. All right. You take the roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Ortiz,
Here.
Emerson,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Duncan,
Yes.
Lesser,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
and Valdivia Aquila.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
I do not believe that individual is here, but I will double check that before we move on. Oh, are they here? No, okay, they are not here. All right. We thank them for their service, and they were not able to be here this evening. All right, I believe we have a presentation. I have no idea who's giving that presentation, but I know it involves the Shawnee County Emergency Management.
Mayor, governing body, I asked Emergency Management to present some information to us. There was some conversation, possibly some sirens that did not work, one of the first storms that we had. And so I thought it'd be a good time just to get an update and a briefing from Emergency Management. So we have Dustin Nichols from Shawnee County Emergency Management.
Thanks, sir. I almost said good morning, Commissioner. Sorry. I know where I'm at. Good evening, City Council, Deputy Mayor, City Manager. That's exactly right. Our last storm, just about a month and a half ago, that we had a possible tornado in Auburn. We sounded our sirens, but we did a little bit differently. So and we got a lot of calls. So I thought I'd just take the opportunity and address some of those questions that we commonly get, and then also answer any questions you have and kind of tell you where we were and then how we've updated and where the siren system is now. The outdoor warning system, just a little brief history. They started out as a civil defense warning for air raids. In late 60s, they started turning those into weather sirens, alert the public, obviously. There's a couple alert tones, but the ones commonly known are the what we call just a blast. It's just a straight siren. That's the one we hear on Mondays. On the first Monday of the month, we test that's called the air raid siren. It's a wavering tone. Sometimes they sound the same because some of our sirens turn, so it sounds like it's wavering. But we do that just to test the software to make sure there's good connections and stuff's getting through. Every time we do those sirens, every time we sound one, we do get a report back from the siren on our system, so we know if there's a problem with it, if it's not working, if it's not rotating, all these different things. So it does a self-report, and then we have our staff, the emergency management team. Some of those guys are trained to actually work on the sirens. We do have contracts with the contractor through Blue Valley to fix those sirens if we have a problem with them. We always know there's a problem with them because when they don't sound, we get a phone call. Which is good. That means that system's working. We do have some feedback. So the locations of our sirens, if you look at the siren map here, this is a little old. We're trying to get it updated. But we have four different types of sirens. We have the standard horn siren, which you hear, and that's the one that rotates. The modular is the one we can actually talk through. We have pre-recorded messages for lightning warnings, certain other circumstances, but we can also talk through a radio and use it as a giant PA system. Those we have at locations that are green on the map, but they're like Heartland Park, Bettis, those places out the lake, so we can actually give more direction. And there's sometimes additional hazards because of lightning on water, so forth. So we can do some additional warnings. The Eclipse is another just a siren blast. And then the bottom one is a Thunderbolt, and I'm going to just mention these real quick. These have been installed since 50s and 60s. These are the original sirens that Shawnee County and Topeka had. We've recently found a company that can bring those online with our current system so we could actually reactivate those, provided they're not in too bad a shape. And we haven't got that far yet to have them come out and inspect each siren, but that's the plan going forward in this next year. So our standard operating procedure, or SOP, first off, we coordinate with the National Weather Service, all of our media partners, radio and television, storm chasers, storm spotters. There's a system called NWS Chat, National Weather Service Chat. And all the emergency managers in our region get together on this system, and it's just a chat base, has radar, it has all these things that are pertinent to whatever storm we're dealing with. So we're all staying within good situational awareness of stuff rolling our way. So the information we get helps us predict whether storms come in the direction and all those. So that's really key on how we do the alarms and the alerts. So previously, upon the warning, we would just sound all the county sirens. So the warning would come out, Shawnee County is under tornado warning, and we'd sound every siren in the county, which is about 68 sirens. And that's 67 of ours and one on top of the VA that they own, but it's on our system. We are looking to expand that, but that's what we used to do, is just sound the entire county. It's a 3-minute cycle. Once it's complete, then we hit the siren again if this tornado warning is still in effect. We keep doing that. There is no such thing as an all clear coming from us. The all clear is we stop sounding the sirens. So we want people to pay attention to the local media and get that all clear from them, or when it's over. So we repeat that. And it caused overwarning. The problem with that is if we have a tornado warning down in Auburn area, but northeast Shawnee County's blue skies, we're sounding that siren, that kind of loses the effect of our system and maybe even some confidence in it, so people run out on their porch when the siren's going. We don't want that. We know it's Kansas, we know it's Topeka, everybody kind of makes that joke, but it's serious business to us. When we hit the siren, it's just like any warning you ever hear. You have a watch, means you're watching. A warning means do something. A warning light on your car means do something. A warning is a warning. Do something, take cover. So we were worried about the overwarning, and so we've been working with the National Weather Service, not just emergency management here in Shawnee County, but all of Kansas. Been worried about this overwarning situation. So now we have the technologies. In the past couple of years, we can actually select the sirens that we want to sound one by one, or in this picture here, that's the warned area, and those sirens that you see that's in that triangle are the ones that only sound. So the rest of them will not sound throughout Shawnee County, just the ones that are in that warned area. That warned area is normally given to us by the National Weather Service. However, we can, if we have an on-site storm spotter, because sometimes we see it before the radar does. And that's happened a couple times over the past years where we saw it dropping, and so we sounded the siren before the National Weather Service saw it on a radar. Or it happens so quickly, by the time the radar does a turn, it's dropped out of the sky and popped back up. So our weather spotters, and they are trained, and we have confidence in them. They're partners. If they tell us it's coming, we hit the siren. And it's, again, 3-minute cycle, repeated until the warning is lifted. But it reduces that overwarning, but it's kind of a culture shift, so we don't want people running outside. So now, as always, we've always said this, you hear a siren, do something. Take cover. Go to your basement, take cover. It's more important now that you do that because we don't hit that siren unless it's happening. So it's not, we sound the siren because we think it's happening. So please take cover. Some of the other things we get, the sirens are too loud, the sirens are too quiet. People ask if we could turn them down, if we could turn them up. I can't hear it in my house. We get all those kinds of things. So I just want to take a moment to address, please get a weather radio. That's like your personal siren. The other part of that is weather apps, whether on your phones or your smart devices or a computer or whatever you have multiple devices, because sometimes sirens do get hit by lightning. And they may not sound. So those are the kinds, you can't trust any one single piece. So make sure you have overlapping methods of getting it. If you're inside your house and you can't hear it, that's good. Your house is made to keep sound out. So if you're hearing the siren in the house, you're probably right underneath it, or you might look at some better insulation in your house because it's supposed to keep the sound out. Plus the environmental growth. This is just a upper right-hand picture of just the trees in Shawnee County. If you look at the 1966 tornado and the overview, it's pretty sparse. So we've got a lot of growth over the past 50 years of trees. So some of the environmental concerns, plus the loud storms, the wind, the lightning, the rain hitting your house, it's going to cause a lot more noise. You're not going to hear it. So please get a weather radio. These are outdoor warning sirens for people who happen to be outdoors, working outdoors, at a ball game, whatever the case may be. So that's what they were designed to do. It's an outdoor warning system. So that's what we're trying to warn for outside. So I can absolutely stand for any questions you have, and hopefully that clears up some things. Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Valdivia Alcala.
Well, can you stay there just for a second, Dusty? I want to clarify something with City Manager. City Manager, we do not yet have the position filled for our emergency response person that we had at one time.
Emergency manager position?
Emergency manager.
That position was eliminated under Mr. Trump.
Eliminated, period. So there's no anticipation that we might have that back in the future. Is that correct?
At this point, no.
Okay. Then Dusty, what I would, and I just, to be transparent here, I've met with your crew a couple of times.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of the number of concerns in District 2 and the vulnerabilities that we have in the district with any number of issues.
Sure.
But looking at it from an elected, as an elected official, and us not having an emergency response person or management person, whatever we want to call it, would you be open to bringing us a more in-depth presentation that deal with things like flooding, fires, and how, since we have no one to go to but the county, how you all respond, not only for like me, but so folks listening in and maybe anything that our, council people may learn. Would that be okay, City Manager, for that presentation to be made?
Yes, ma'am, and one of the things I've been talking with Mr. Nichols on is some training for the governing body as far as role that you will play in emergency situations.
Okay, thank you. And I know, Dusty, that one of the things that we've been talking about is CERT, right? That
ma'am.
community emergency response team to have within our neighborhoods. And I think, that these type of things with restarting are always very slow. But you guys have listened every time I've had any questions, and I know that you guys are working towards that as well. And I think that since the city position that we have has closed, it really is kind of how do we prepare to the best of our ability. So I would appreciate anything that you would want to come in and provide this governing body.
Oh, Councilwoman, you just opened the door. How much time you got?
Well, I mean, within the scope of what we usually do at,
we have a lot of topics we can discuss. and like talking with the city manager, your role as elected officials in this. I do want to make clear, just because you don't have an emergency manager on staff does not mean that we're not talking and sharing information. I know you get Nelson's emails, and they're full of information. That's a lot of our situational awareness, and that's mainly our job on a day-to-day basis when nothing's going on, is paying attention to everything. So I'd be more than happy to come back and give you, I mean, I get to brag on my career field and my team. Please, I'll take that in a second. Yeah.
Well,
I'd love
it's
to.
just always a wealth of information to learn from you all, but
Yeah.
sometimes for me, it's hard to then relay that information at my NIA meetings. But maybe we can get a presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
And then have it videoed, then NIA folks can also, take a look at that as well, which
Sure,
is
and
beneficial.
I also have a specific CERT brief I could even put up or deliver it separately if you want to do that. CERT, if you're not familiar with it, is Community Emergency Response Team. It's basically a 2-day class that teaches citizens how to respond to all kinds of disasters from fire. And we have our partners that we have great partnerships with throughout Shawnee County and Topeka that come in and teach that class. Those experts in those fields, whether it's fire or search and rescue, we have them come in and actually help teach the class. So we are trying to get that program up and running. As we discussed, we had a couple-year break where we couldn't get together, and then unfortunately we lost quite a few of our members to various things. So we are trying to rebuild that. It is a slow roll, as you might know, but we definitely want to get that back up and running because it just makes for a stronger community. And we are definitely focused on the whole community concept, with especially with our churches and NIAs and so forth. So I'd love to have that opportunity.
Okay, then I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Great.
Thank you.
Member Kelt?
Thank you for the presentation. Just curious, is there like any backup plan if the sirens don't work? Because there's been times I'm like, I can't believe the siren's not going off. I'm standing outside,
Sure.
and
We have-
I'm kind of one of those people that walk outside instead of walking into the basement. So
Sure. I just take a second to reiterate, if you hear the siren now, take cover, don't go out. The last storm, we did get a lot of calls because it did say tornado warning in Shawnee County, but it's down in Auburn. And many of the Oakland area and the north part of town did not have the sirens going, and that's good because that means our systems work. We didn't sound those sirens. So if you hear a siren, we want people to take cover. As far as a backup, we have multiple backups to get that siren sounded. When the weather watch comes up, in particular, a tornado watch, we man the EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center, and we spin it up, or we have somebody actively watching constantly until that warning or that watch is over. So that in itself is the trigger for that if that happens. And we talk, again, the National Weather Service and all of our partners. The backup systems, we have multiple ways that emergency management can sound it from an actual console sitting in the EOC. We can sound it from our smart devices. There's a lot of stuff that goes with that, but we've got the technology to do that. And then dispatch also has the backup, and they're trained to sound it too. So now, as far as it getting hit with a lightning strike or something, we don't have a backup for that necessarily, but those are single incidents. If you take one siren out, it's not going to affect the whole entire thing. So other sirens will still go off, but there is possibility, and it has happened before, where a lightning strike has taken out a siren and it didn't sound. But that's why we encourage people to have multiple layers of getting the warning.
thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions? I had a couple. This first question may be silly, but I mean, basically, we have coverage now that if I stand anywhere in the county, I'm going to hear a siren.
No, not in the county. We are working on, right now we have 68 sirens, 67 plus the one on top of the V8. We're getting 2 more installed. We just got approval to get 2 more installed. One's at the governor's mansion, and the other one is, I think, near the Oakland Community Center. So we're going to be bringing those 2 new ones online, and if we get all the Thunderbolts, and if they're working, that'll give us an additional 6. It gets an additional 6, provided they're all working, so that the coverage will be better. But again, depending on the population is where we try to put them first.
Well,
so it's
is
not
that-
everywhere
yeah.
in the county, but the most populated areas, yes.
Yeah, and that was my next one, is do we look at when a new development goes up?
Yes.
And go out there and say, okay, do we have one in the right place? And
Absolutely. When the new pool went up out at Urish, that was where a lightning detector and that next siren went. So yeah, we do look at how Topeka's growing and the population areas potentially going forward, and we try to get in front of it and have that installed, but even before some of those areas go. So yeah, you're absolutely right, sir.
And then my last question, you talked about environmental factors. Trees get bigger, more leaves, times a year, all that kind of stuff. So as areas do become either more populated or more overgrown, can you assess, I mean, is there a better siren than others that can be either swapped out or put in that cuts through that than siren A of the 4 sirens? And you guys ever assess, this siren will be better here because of...
Yes and no. I mean, certain sirens, they're all going to be about the same tone because that's just how they're built, and the same volume and all those kinds of issues that when we put the siren in, those are taken into consideration with the contractor because it could be based on a slight hill, and so we're trying to get the best and most efficient use out of every single siren for sure. Now, as far as stuff grows, swapping those sirens out, that's pretty difficult to do. For an example, up on Huntoon Hill, when they widened the road, we had to take that siren down for a little bit. And then when we went to put it back in, they hit rock and we couldn't even put it there. So we had to look at finding a different place to go. So, but I do want to thank the city for the coordination on that, because sometimes it doesn't happen all the time. So it was good coordination for dropping the power, and we were able to get the word out. So, but yes and no. I mean, we do look at it, but it's more or less what the contractor has based on best practices. So, but as things go, it's hard to switch sirens out.
I'm sure there are 93 more questions my mother, who was here in the 66 tornado, said I should ask you this evening, but that's all I've got.
Well, you can send those to me at dustin.nichols@sncO.us. We are more than happy to engage and help any way we can.
Any other questions for Dusty? No. Councilmember Heller?
I might be getting ahead of this future presentation that you were talking about, but is there any particular role? At one point, when we had a Topeka coordinator, they were talking about giving us advance warnings and gathering us together even and so on. Are there any particular roles that you need us to play? And no is an okay answer, but...
Oh, there absolutely is. City manager and I were actually discussing this, and that's part of the training that we're going to offer. It's called the 402, and it's ICS, Incident Command System for elected officials. And we'd love to give that class openly or private, however we get that information to you. But there's definitely a role for elected officials in those kinds of things. And again, hopefully you're all getting Nelson's email, or operations section chief, his email, and that'll give you more instruction should we need something going on there. So absolutely. And because you're, for lack of a better term, compartmentalized, you have the voice for your areas, that is even more helpful, especially when we're talking about CERT and help promoting these things and preparedness and all that. So there's absolutely a role for you.
You might want to pick one of us and do a test run and make sure we're getting all the emails. I remember seeing you some months ago now, and we weren't getting them, and you guys didn't know it.
The guy who sends those out is sitting right there. Can you fix that? Yes, it'll be fixed, man. Just remember, you asked for it.
No, it might be fine. I just was thinking about it when you were
Not a
talking.
problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nager?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Dusty, I just wanted to thank you. I know that you've had this department under your leadership for a very tumultuous time, and I just really appreciate the constant reassurance and information that you get so quickly out to us. So no question, just thank you so much for your service to your community.
Thank you, and I just want to share that with all the team members from Public Health and the EM team and all of our partners too. It's not just me, trust me, there was a lot of leadership going on, but thank you, I appreciate it.
That is a fair clarification. Pass that on to your team.
Will do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Anyone else? No? All right, well, thank you, Dusty. Appreciate it.
And we'll see you soon, man.
With that, we move on to the consent agenda. If the clerk would read.
A is an ordinance introduced by interim city manager William E. Cochran, allowing and approving city expenditures for the period of May 28 to June 24, 2022, and enumerating said expenditures therein. B is a resolution introduced by interim city manager William E. Cochran granting various neighborhood organizations exceptions to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. C is a resolution introduced by interim city manager William E. Cochran filling a vacancy on the Friends of the Zoo FOTS Board of Directors. D are minutes of the regular meeting of July 5 and July 12, 2022, and there are no applications.
We have a motion. Councilmember Kell moves. Do I have a second? Councilmember Ortiz seconds. All right. If you would call the roll.
Okay, Councilmembers Emerson,
I think he said yes.
yes. Kale,
Yes.
Nager,
Yes.
Dobler,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Duncan,
Yes.
Councilmembers Lesser,
Yes.
Hiller,
Yes.
and Valdivia Akla,
Yes.
and Ortiz.
Yes.
We have 9 yes, motion carries.
Councilmember Emerson, do you have a question? You're muted.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor, thank you, and I fully support you being on the, appointed to fill the vacancy on the Board of the Friends of the Topeka Zoo. However, I had a question. It says on my thing that that's a resolution. Can we do a resolution in the consent agenda?
I will turn that over to the attorney.
Yes, you can.
She says yes.
Okay, that's my only question. I just want to make sure you were fully vetted for that. Thank you. Congratulations.
Slide it under. Thank you, sir. All right, we will move on to non-action items, the 2023 operating budget.
Mayor, governing body, tonight, this is really a general overview of the budget. We do have a special meeting scheduled for next week at the Holiday Building. And also, as a reminder, you suggested we keep August 23rd open on your calendars just in case we need that as a budget meeting. So with that in mind, I will turn it over to Finance Director, Mr. Steve Wade.
Thank you, City Manager, Deputy Mayor. Dusty was talking about how fun it was to brag on his team, and tonight's one of those opportunities to where I get to brag on mine. So to my left, each one of you have met Adam Vaughn. Adam's a senior financial analyst for us, and Adam's run point on the 2023 budget. So I'm super excited to let him do an overview tonight and walk it through, and then we'll stand for some questions.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, governing body. So as we all know, this is our first public presentation of the 2023 proposed budget. Before we get into it, I do want to also thank just city staff in general, everyone that has helped in preparation of the 2023 budget. It's a very complex process, and there have been a lot of external factors that we've had to deal with during this budget cycle with rising costs and financial forecasts proving challenging. But city staff has shown great resilience, and we're very pleased with the budget book that we have for you. So with that, we'll go over just a general overview of the roadmap of how we're presenting the budget over the next couple of weeks. Last week, the governing body voted to notify the county clerk of our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate. This week, we will be going over a general overview of the budget. This is the first about 44 pages of the budget. So it'll be a high-level overview. We know that you have other items on the agenda this evening, and so we'll try to be brief. Next week, as mentioned, will be our budget workshop, where we will talk about the priorities of public safety and infrastructure, and those will be when our departments will begin to present their budgets. We'll pick this back up on August 9th, where we will present the priorities of developing neighborhoods and quality of life, and conclude our presentation of the budget on the 16th with our good governance priority. As the city manager mentioned, if there are any other topics or areas that we need to address between now and the September 6th public hearing date, we can do that. And this year is a little bit different than last year's schedule. We gave an extra week in between our hearings and when you will vote to adopt the budget. This will just allow us a little bit of extra time to make any changes as needed. So as we get into talking about a general overview of the budget, the starting place for our budget this year was community workshops centered on each of our 5 budget priorities. So you'll remember that we asked the governing body to nominate individuals to be participants in these workshops. So we held 5 of these workshops from January through March with anywhere from 15 to 25 participants, which included citizens, governing body members, and staff members. We asked the participants to envision what community success would look like in 5 years and what strategies we should pursue to accomplish that vision. During these workshops, there were 17 goals that were identified, along with nearly 150 objectives that we then went and prioritized during the final workshop. Feedback from the citizens served as our starting point for city departments to for their budget presentations. And so we've talked a bit about outcome-based budgeting, and we will continue to engage the community to ensure that we are aligning city resources with community priorities. So as a general overview of some of the themes that emerged from the community workshops, and I do want to point out in the bottom right, you will see pages 16 through 17. So in your budget books, you will find information, summary information of the community workshops on pages 16 and 17. If you're accessing the budget book online, we recommend downloading it. If you're using your web browser, you'll be 3 pages off, but the page numbers are on the bottom of the PDF as well, so you can use that. So again, some general themes that emerged during these workshops. Community appearance is important. The city should continue its focus on code enforcement, blight abatement, and other beautification measures. Safety is critical and requires a holistic approach involving not just a range of city departments, but also community members. Partnerships are essential to community progress. The city should build on existing partnerships and develop new ones to make progress in each of the priority areas. Continued community engagement is essential in building a sense of belonging and for effective decision-making. It is important the engagement includes addressing the needs of those without shelter, supporting those with a range of disabilities, and demonstrates recognition of the values of a diverse community. And finally, the availability of public transportation is essential to a strong community. So as mentioned, in the final workshop, we prioritized each of these 17 goals. And so you can see this chart that shows the results of that. So again, some of the things that kind of emerged: city appearance, affordable housing, ensuring equitable investments, neighborhood safety, among the other items that are listed here. So again, we'll keep talking about outcome-based budgeting, which is what we are moving our budget towards. And this list was the starting point for staff to begin looking at each of our 5 budget priorities and developing key indicators that we can use to track our long-term progress towards accomplishing the goals of those 5 governing body priorities. So again, each budget cycle will be able to look at the priorities and their key indicators and the measurements that we are using to track our progress, and talk about areas that we can strengthen or that we can improve, and then get with city departments to begin adjusting our services to meet those goals and to achieve those outcomes. Throughout the book, you'll see some bubbles, some colored bubbles that depict our strategic priorities. This is kind of the summary page of strategic priorities that you'll find on page 15 of your budget book. So these next couple slides show each of the priorities and the key indicators that we developed with our community input and through staff recommendation. So this first one is for our public safety priority. The indicators that were chosen were ensure appropriate response and resolutions, increase sustainability of operations, foster partnerships to provide wraparound services, and enhance community engagement programs. For our investing in infrastructure priority, the key indicators that were chosen were protect investments in infrastructure, improve accessibility for all, and provide sustainable infrastructure. For our neighborhoods priority, developing neighborhoods priority, the key indicators were engage community partners to foster healthy neighborhoods, expand the stock and quality of affordable housing, commitment to assist unsheltered, low to moderate income, and at-risk neighbors, and increase transportation opportunities. For our selected strategic investments towards quality of life priority, the indicators that were chosen were improve and ensure a quality workforce, foster economic growth, and establish a thriving community. And finally, our good governance priority, the indicators are provide excellent customer relations, open and transparent government, and sustainable, efficient, and responsible operations. So again, this budget contains a lot of elements of outcome-based budgeting, but we do want to emphasize that our process of moving towards outcome-based budgeting is a long-term process that we expect to take about 3 years before we'll do a full outcome-based budgeting budget cycle. But again, there's additional elements and like those priorities that we showed. That sets a really good foundation for us next year to be able to start with those and begin adjusting budget proposals towards those priorities. Another thing that we are working towards is more of a focus on the services that departments provide rather than departments by themselves. So you'll see a couple elements of that in this year's budget book, but really just kind of giving a vision of where we want to be next year is that rather than showing summary department information, we would show services with performance measures and with the actual costs associated with those services. So this will allow us to be able to look at how much we're spending on each of our priorities and on each on the key indicators as well, which will allow for some further analysis and further alignment of city resources with our strategic goals. So our budget book this year is broken into 6 different sections. The first one is a general budget overview, which contains the letter from the city manager and our citizens guide to the budget. The next section is the governing body priorities, which goes in a little bit more detail with the measurements for each of the key indicators. This also contains, as indicated earlier, the summary information on the community workshops. The next section is the financial summary, which is followed by our department summary and our fund summary. The appendix contains a profile of the city long-term financial forecast, which is the simple forecast that we discussed with the governing body when discussing our mill levy options. Debt schedules, full-time equivalent position histories, financial policies, glossary, and our CIP summary pages. On the online version of the budget books, you will also find a complete line item budget along with all of the notes from our community workshops. We are also in the process of developing a series of budget videos that will go through the budget, just some of the high-level concepts, trying to be more transparent to the public. And with these videos, we will try to push these out to the community members, including going out and presenting and talking about different ways that we can get the community involved. So if we take a little bit closer look at our departmental pages, we'll walk through a couple things just to make sure that it's clear what we are presenting. So on the first page of our departmental pages, you'll find a quick summary of the department along with the financials. This includes allocation by fund and by expense category. You have your changes from the previous budget. The next page lists the major program accomplishments, performance measures, and future goals. And then I mentioned that we're putting a higher emphasis in the services that our departments provide. And so we have a breakdown of services that city departments provide. Just a little bit closer look at the financial section. The allocation by fund, and well, both of them, they show the 2020 and 2021 actual numbers, and then 2022 and 2023 budget, along with the 2023 budgeted full-time equivalent positions. So the fund shows obviously by fund. For the legal department, this is our example, because it does have two different funds, the general fund and the special liability fund. The allocation by expense category is broken down by major expenses. So you have your non-personnel, in this example, commodities and contractual, and personnel costs. And again, if we take a closer look at this page that shows our services, next year, you can expect to see a service with a cost and performance measures for that individual service. So this page shows the citizens guide that we prepared for this budget. That just contains a general overview for the budget. And so some highlights that we have include, so our $340 million budget is essentially flat to last year's budget, which was about $339 million. The general fund budget of $104 million is up 6.2% from last year. Our overall properties throughout the city, so residential and commercial values, increased by about 8.5% from last year. And of course, this allowed us to lower our mill levy by 1 mil. On the Citizens Guide, we have an example for a citizen that owns a $150,000 house in the city of Topeka. They would owe about $672 in property tax to the city in 1 year. Personnel costs are about 77.8% of the general fund. So that's just an important thing to remember as well. Something else to point out is that we also have a version of our Citizens Guide in Spanish. This was actually a suggestion that came out of our community workshops. And so we wanted to provide this to allow for more access to our budget. We know that the budget is a long and complex document. So we are available to answer any questions. Steve sent out an invitation over email this afternoon to governing body members, letting you know that we are open and that we can schedule any time to meet with you one-on-one. We're also available to citizens. They're able to email us any feedback or questions at budget@topeka.org. I'll leave it up to you for any questions, Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Anything online there? I've got a few. All right. Just so we all are aware, is September 3rd, not that I'm asking for more time, is September 13th the drop dead day that we have got to pass a budget out?
So we technically have until September 20. The preference for us was to present on September 13. If we needed to pull over into 20, we could. We must present to the county clerk by October 1.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify with everybody that what the real deadlines are there that we actually need to adhere to. And he touched on it. I'll just follow up because I've had a few questions. In fact, the news tonight, just a reminder to the public that we will all take your input, comments, suggestions, whether that's through email, phone calls, standing up here for public comment on budget suggestions as we go through this process. My other question is, and I'm not asking anyone to name names, but this is the first year of a new process as we integrate the outcome-based budgeting. And I guess my general question is, how is that going throughout our departments, and what has that process been like to this point?
I would say, Deputy Mayor, about as well as expected. Certainly there's been a A little hand-wringing, as happens with anytime there's change, but departments have been very cooperative and very supportive. We've got a lot to learn, obviously, and you've seen that in some of our presentation, but for year one, I think we're very satisfied with where we're at.
Great. I mean, I've been very supportive of that process and continue to be, but I know it takes buy-in, and we got to have everybody swimming in the same direction on that one. So, other questions? Councilmember Hiller?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. With that, could we go back to the slide that had the calendar on it? And if you could help for the public who might be interested in certain budgets, in the past, you could see what day police was supposed to roll up and fire and things like that, and you have categorized that differently. So if you could, for us on the council as well as for the public, kind of walk through what we should expect and how we could figure out which one to show up for if the public, for instance, wants to tune in.
Yeah, so because we haven't been able to break down service costs, we still are presenting by departments this year. And so it will be similar to previous years. So next week, public safety and infrastructure will be the fire department, police department, municipal court for the public safety, and then public works and utilities for the infrastructure meetings. The developing neighborhoods will primarily be planning, and then quality of life will be HR and IT. And then the good governance has a lot of the support functions, finance, legal, city manager's office. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Ortiz?
Thank you. I would like to see maybe an updated version on that with those in parentheses so people can see that. I don't even know if I'm going to remember that, but that would be great if we could do that. I also wanted to thank the team for putting page numbers on the budget book, and when you're going through your different topics or whatever, I appreciate you referring to that. Sometimes, I know for myself, I get to writing and then I kind of lose track, and I guess that comes with age, I don't know. But I do want to say that I will be bringing a 2014 budget book that's probably 3 times the size of this to Adam, or I'll give it to Mr. Wade, and I don't know what you guys want to do with it, but I always feel like something's missing because ever since I've been on this council, I've had huge budget books. So if I seem a little like lost, it's because I'm looking for the rest of the damn budget. Okay, but I wanted to thank staff for all their hard work, and I appreciate those. Thank you.
So Councilwoman, I might share with you, you will receive either tonight or tomorrow an electronic copy of the itemized list of expenses. Adam mentioned that it's online already, but we are going to send it to you separate. That's in a searchable format so that if you're looking for something specific, you can find it. It's 500 pages printed out, and we chose to try not to kill a couple of trees. But certainly, anybody that needs a hard copy, we'd be happy to provide.
If you put it in really tiny print, you could probably get down to 350. I don't know. Depends if we all just use glasses. Any other questions or comments? No? And then to clarify, that next meeting is next Tuesday night, right? 6 o'clock, but over in the Holiday Building.
Holiday
not
Building,
here.
that's correct.
So don't come, you can come here, but we won't be here. So. All right, one last go just to make sure before we move on. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, what do we have? I believe we're at public comment. We have 2 signed up. Were there anyone else who signed up for? All right. First up is Crystal Brim. You can come up to the podium there. As a reminder, you've got 4 minutes. It'll turn yellow on you with 1 minute to go and then turn red when your time is up.
Okay,
And you should have a little clock there that counts it down for you right in front of you.
all righty. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Duncan and council members. I'm 75 years old, and I'm a concerned citizen of Topeka. I've lived here most of my life, and after the death of Christopher Kelly, caused by the 4 Topeka Police Department officers on June 24th, I Googled self-protection devices. The list included taser, stun gun, pepper spray, tear gas, rubber bullets, Burma pepper, CS, gas handgun, whatever that is. And I and other concerned citizens need to know what devices the Topeka Police Department officers have been trained on and have access to on their bodies and in their patrol cars. I've been told that former Marine police officer and now attorney Edward Collazo, who was hired October 2019 by former city manager Brent Trout for $57,000 a year as an independent police auditor to deal with complaints filed by citizens due to allegations of police brutality by Topeka Police Department, now lives out of the county and works on a contract basis. I'm wondering, how do the citizens file complaints today? In over 104 cases he reviewed in 1 year, he stated none involved excessive use of force. That averages a case filed every 3 days on average during that year. And in the Isaiah Duncan case, the young biracial man that was autistic and is autistic, and was trying to corral his dog, he did say that Officer Ziegler would benefit from retaking de-escalation courses. Police Chief Wales has stated to Topeka Capital Journal on October 31st, 2020, that Ziegler's use of force and corrective action was appropriate. Councilman Hiller, Ortiz, and Padilla made up the Police and Community Committee. It could have included people from a group called Mainstream Voices of Faith. They've really wanted to participate, and other community members who wanted to serve to improve racial equality in policing in Topeka. The city council members know these people. These community members complained at last week's city council meeting about weak recommendations after this 18-month process. Our new mayor, Padilla, said this is a starting point. Mayor Padilla encouraged the proposal's critics to come to the table and add to the work effort involved with any future police reform initiatives the city might undertake. Our question is, where is the table and when do we come? We are more than ready and have been. We're fed up with police brutality and deaths in our great community of caring citizens. We haven't forgotten Dominique White, killed September 2017, Timothy Harris, brutalized January 2018, Tamika Mitchell, brutalized August 2020, Isaiah Dunn, the fall of 2020, and Christopher Kelly, who was killed June 24th, 2022.
Were you done, ma'am, or do you need more time?
I'm done.
Thank you very much for your comments.
And I was just in time?
You were just in time.
All
You got
right.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Miss Sandra Lassiter. Look at that, perfect timing. I saw you come in, see?
Tell me something. Let's go ahead and say what I have to say. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is a good evening. Real quickly, I want to share once again, I appreciate all of you for what you do. I have a concern with the ARPA funds, and I sat and listened to all of these presentations, the one city council night. They were just awesome. And I thought about the saying that so many times we have the lion's share. And I think as I listen to them, that it reminds me of a mosaic or a collage or even a tapestry. And that is that all of these people that shared, I believe it's a $10 million amount, that shared might be able to get a piece of this lion's share. And then I thought, why don't I tell you a little bit about what I might do? Because I've never applied for any special grants or anything like that. I think I'm going to apply for a portion of that ARPA. And the reason for that is because I have a very unique school, and I have an opportunity school. And many of my children that are there were not as successful in public school, as many of you know. And so many of our children are not as successful as we'd like for them to be, whether it's behavioral, intellectual, socio-economic, whatever the case may be. And we have brought children up at least 2 levels on many occasions. Also, we're a community school in that I do not take a salary. I'm not boasting. It's just that I'm making an investment. And our teachers are there on a volunteer stipend. Our kitchen crew are volunteers as well. We give them a token of love, but they are just the best cooks ever. And if you ask the children about International, they will tell you this is the best food ever. The other piece of this is that we are real concerned with community and what we're doing for our community. And I could go in any school in this county and point out 50 children that probably need the International Academy. And it's because they need it, but parents can't afford it. I had a mother this year that pulled her child out of the school after bringing him. He was making great strides the first 2 weeks of school, learning how to read, learning his phonics and all of that. And she had to pull him out because of the pandemic, lost her job, and had to do Grubhub. And she started taking the child around with her. Well, she's the mother, didn't have a whole lot to say, but my concern was that he should have remained in school, but she could not afford it. So I'm standing here tonight once again about the ARPA funds. I think that how do we eat an elephant? One piece at a time. And I do believe that we're able to spread these funds out. And I'm not in competition with anyone because I believe that our school is special. And I'd like you to visit us someday, 1162 Lincoln International Academy, and we're proud of our successes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lassiter. All right, that is, make sure no one else on that list, correct? All right. And with that, we will go to announcements. Councilmember Emerson. Oh, the city manager. I was going to get to him. He just wasn't first on my list. Never mind, Councilmember Emerson. Hit that mute button for a minute.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one thing, I just want to remind everybody, the first redistricting meeting is August 4th at 5 p.m. at the Holiday Building. Initially, they'll be reviewing the boundaries of the 9 districts in light of the recent census. Additional information can be found on the website under City Council page. If you have any questions, you can contact us as well.
Now, Councilmember Emerson.
Well, city manager stole my thunder, so I was going to say exactly what he said, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Kell.
Just remind everyone that the primary is August 2nd. You know, please get out and vote. Everyone should vote. Take that time. Early voting started yesterday at the elections office, which is pretty much Kansas and Croy intersection, right across from where the old White Lakes used to be. It's for the next 7 days. It's supposed to be 95 plus, and a few of those days in 100. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Check on your neighbors. Check on people without air conditioning. Our air conditioner blew up the other day, and we have to wait till Thursday to have it fixed. And luckily, we reached out to some family and friends, and we were able to get some window units put in to at least survive in our home. But make sure you're checking on your friends, family, neighbors, those type. And finally, my youngest turns 16 tomorrow. It's always crazy when you get those milestone birthdays because it feels just like yesterday. They were a little kid, and now you have a almost adult on your hands and learning to deal with that. So I just want to say happy birthday to my youngest, Reagan.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Nager.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. In addition to checking in on your neighbors, checking in on your family and friends, make sure that you're being kind to your pets, bring them inside, and keep them well watered. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Dobler.
Nothing, Deputy Mayor.
Councilmember Lesser.
Just have real quick, and I'm going to lean on city manager here a little bit, but Pick a Country Club did a first responder for free tournament today. City manager was instrumental in putting that together, so I'll kind of let him share kind of what they did in our community for first responder.
Yeah, this is the second year for it. Topeka Country Club hosts a round of golf on Tuesday afternoon, and then we do it on Thursday morning of the week. What it is, it gives the first responders, sheriff's office, police department, the district attorney's office, Shawnee County Department of Corrections, and then some retired first responders, but an opportunity to play golf, give them a meal, and it's a good time for them and the country club to interact with the community. So that afternoon round was today, and then the morning round Thursday.
Oh, was that it? Councilmember Lesser, is that it? Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. No, just checking. Councilmember Heller.
Follow up with some of my colleagues on a couple of these points. Definitely vote August 2nd or any time before. National Night Out is coming up on the 6th, and given the fact that we don't meet on the 2nd, just a heads up that that's coming up, and I'm not sure what the number of neighborhoods are this year. It's often 70 or more. Now that we're post-COVID, people are getting out again. Certainly stay cool. Have an alert for everyone to be watching sometime around the 1st of August for an announcement regarding Change Our Culture property maintenance. Things have been moving along in terms of the programming. And last but not least, pray for me. I'm heading out on Saturday for Topeka United's second annual Call River Float. 10 miles on the river. It's supposed to be 103, but we're going to have a good time.
Councilmember Valdivia-Alcala.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to say that last week I found out about Mayor Padilla's panel of citizens that were appointed by I believe, and the city manager to conduct interviews of city manager finalists. I was a bit disturbed since I didn't recall that we were asked for input or a request to have anyone that we could recommend individually as council persons. And so at the time, Mayor Padilla ended up communicating to me by email if I had names of a choice or two that I would want to add to this panel or board or whatever it is that it's being named. And I do have two names that I want to make sure get put on the record. These are two women highly involved in community at a grassroots level, especially in marginalized communities. I want to put forth Dr. Sandy Lassiter, retired principal at USD 501, co-pastor of Faith Temple Church, and also the founder of the International Academy grades K through 12. Secondly, I want to put forth Janice Watkins, CEO of Habitat for Humanity. Again, these are women that have a history of being deeply steeped in community. When I saw the list of who was going to be on there, it did not feel to me that it was representative of what I see and those I represent in the community and underserved communities. So I just want to make sure that that's put on the record. Also, I want to say thank you to Finance Director Stephen Wade for bringing forth and passing on to the council the information about the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And this is the gun reform law that was passed at the national level. It is $6.7 billion that is going to be used for a number of measures for the improving of mental health services, enhancing school safety, assisting law enforcement, and providing additional support and training to those in relevant fields. Now, Director Wade did put out here, when he sent us the information, what they were able to get for the breakdown. He did say in the email, and this is just so folks on TV can hear, that no funding specifically allocated to local governments at this time. However, there is funding for local education agencies and emergency departments for training. And so he did give us a breakdown, and I appreciate that. What I want to make sure, though, is that your grant folks, Director, keep a really sharp eye out if anything does come down, maybe money given to the county or money given to the state that we can apply as a city for grants on, because I'm thinking specifically of the, I would say, rather desperate need for the CIT program, and also to possibly assist in housing services for what is done, with wraparound services there for those that are mentally ill. So I just want to state, again, thank you for the information, and that I hope that we keep a really sharp eye on that for any possibilities of funds coming to the city. I also wanted to just make people aware in Oakland and beyond to please keep in your prayers NIA President David Bowden. He is in the hospital at this time. He is experiencing some health issues. Won't go into detail about it, but I do want to say that his prayers, he is a man of faith, and he has done so much along with others with the Oakland NIA, the CAC, and I would ask all of you that pray to please pray for his health and recovery. Thank you, Mayor. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Ortiz. Nothing. All right. Me, I guess. Just a couple quick things. ARPA update. We currently, as of today, you have 12 more days to fill it out. July 31st is the last day. Policy and Finance does meet next Monday evening at 6 o'clock. We will just do a review. Part of that meeting will be just a quick review with staff just to make sure things have gone smoothly. We believe they have. I want to thank staff and members of the committee. I know questions have come in, and to my knowledge and community feedback I've gotten is that those questions get turned around pretty quick, whether it goes to a council person or to staff. We've done a pretty good job of making sure that those questions get answered so the process can keep moving forward. But we'll kind of do a quick review of that on Monday just to make sure that deadline's still going to be good and that everyone's in line. We have 7 submitted, but we have 21 that are in progress. I imagine in the next week or two, those 21 will become permanent as people figure out their answers and work on their applications. So we certainly have a lot in place. Regarding National Night Out, I'll just remind everyone, if you just go to safestreets.org, they will be posting the list of all the events and locations and times. They were in here this evening telling us that they're still waiting on some to decide their time and location, but they're telling you have to decide quick. It's coming up. You got to give us those dates. But they will post that on the safestreets.org website once they have all those locked in. And then lastly, as everyone's reminded people to vote, and please do that. In fact, you can go do early voting now at the Shawnee County's election office. I will remind everybody, and where you stand on the issue is your personal business, but independents and unaffiliateds can vote. And I've run into some who have had confusion about that because traditionally they don't vote in primaries, so there's not a habit of showing up to vote in the primary. But I want to remind all the unaffiliated and independent voters out there that you can show up. They will give you a ballot on the constitutional amendment issue, and then you can go home after that. But so literally everyone who's registered can get out to vote on August 2nd, so please go do it. With that, if there's nothing else, I believe we have an executive session.
The motion would be to recess into executive session not to exceed 2 hours to discuss individual candidates for city manager pursuant to KSA 7543-19B1. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers. The following individuals may be needed to assist the governing body in its deliberations: Paul Bossert and Patty Millard from Key Staffing and City Attorney Stanley.
Do I have a motion? Councilmember Kell, seconded by Councilmember Hiller. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? It's the 2 hours, all right? If it was 1 hour, she'd say yes. But Councilmember Ortiz says no. And with that, we will take about a 10-minute break, which will probably really be 12 and a half minutes, and before we come back into executive session.
Freeze Tony's camera the way it is right now.
Are we back? We are live, all right. Governing body has come out of executive session and no decisions or actions have been taken. However, before we adjourn, I move to amend next week's call for a special meeting to include both the budget and the city manager search process. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Dobler seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposition? All right, well, thank you. With that, we're adjourned.
Thanks for watching tonight's City Council meeting. A recording of the meeting will replay at 1 p.m. on Wednesday. All of our recorded council and committee meetings from this week will replay starting at 9 every Saturday and Sunday morning. You can find all of our video content on the City of Topeka's YouTube page.